The
Yeah.
single greatest belief that a CEO needs to let go to get unstuck is to understand that they may be in the wrong position. They have to immediately count the cost. Just because you care about a population and you want to serve them, just because you have founded an organization and you've done it with nobility and purity of heart to save and transform lives, it doesn't qualify you to actually be the CEO of a. We have to count the cost. We have to understand what the calling is in our life. And we have to decide if we have the requisite skills as a CEO to manage all aspects of an enterprise that's going to go to scale.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of AI for Impact, where I've been bringing together tons of nonprofit leaders from all different sectors of the industry, essentially in the beginning to shorten my learning curve. But what I've also been able to do is start connecting the dots and bringing other people together. That's been fantastic. And tonight I have one of the most polarizing figures in the nonprofit world, if I may say so, Jimmy LaRose, who is the co-founder and chief spokesperson for NANU, National Association of Nonprofit Organizations and Executives, a network focused on nonprofit innovation, sector-wide best practices, and leadership development. He is recognized as a transformative thinker, author, and fundraiser whose work challenges conventional nonprofit structures in favor of entrepreneurship, scalable impact, and donor-centered operations. How's that? And that's just the tip of the iceberg
It's
with
all
you.
true, Eric. It's all
It's
true.
all true. And reimagining the books, reimagining philosophy, reimagining nonprofits, major gifts, ramp up, and the trainings and all the stuff that goes with it that only few people I've met so far, and I've spoken to over 30 CEOs now in the last month, get it. And you probably know who they are. But I told you I was going to ask you a really big question in the beginning, so we're going to start there. Jimmy, you've said the nonprofit sector has been stuck for 50 years. What is the single biggest belief a CEO must let go of if they want to grow?
Thank you for asking, Eric. The single greatest belief that a CEO needs to let go to get unstuck is to understand that they may be in the wrong position. They have to immediately count the cost. Just because you care about a population and you want to serve them, just because you have founded an organization and you've done it with nobility and purity of heart to save and transform lives, it doesn't qualify you to actually be the CEO of a corporation. So we have to count the cost. We have to understand what the calling is in our life. And we have to decide if we have the requisite skills as a CEO to manage all aspects of an enterprise that's going to go to scale.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that many people who are a CEO type have that ego, have that understanding of themselves to, it might be tough to really look deep inside and say, oh, you know what? For this to go to the next level, I need somebody else to do this. And that's essentially what happened where I am with Journey House Foundation. The owners have been building it for years and years and years. And they were actually chiropractic patients of mine long time ago. And I've known them for over 15 years. And they've been asking me, even while I was at Amazon operations, I'd come over to the building and they'd talk to me about the business and ask me for help. And like, here's the whiteboard. Here's all this stuff going on. We're at our skill set. Like we're at the end of it. We don't know how to go further, but we know we want to. And that was humbling for them. And I couldn't at the time. So 2 or 3 years goes past. And now here I am, director of strategy and development for a nonprofit organization for recovery and treatment and getting people's lives back together. I've been sober for 14 years and it just really fits. And somehow, uh, what I created to shorten my learning curve, I didn't even know who you were when I set up this call on the phone. I didn't and I laughed with my wife. I was like, if I knew that Jimmy LaRose was the one that I was about to call, I'd have been nervous as hell.
Great.
But I was just like, oh, I'm calling. No, there's another guy. Here's all this stuff. He's written a book. I've talked to a lot of people who've written books. Let's
Right.
just get on. But you and I hit it off like, man, it was incredible. And I wouldn't wonder, I really wanna know, what did you hear from me that caused that reaction from you, or that
Thank you,
response?
Eric, and I know exactly what it was. You are coming into this space without the baggage of the nonprofit sector, without the 50 years, and that's what we base 50 to 70 years is where we still believe we're operating within the same framework and the same enterprise model started in the 70s. We have not yet abandoned it as a sector, though it is my heart and my goal to do so. And I believe it's individuals like you who come in from a practice of relationship working with people, who come in from Amazon business, who are not beset with all the brokenness of the nonprofit sector, who are able to just take one step back and say, oh my gosh, of course we're never going to do that. What were you guys thinking? So you are our great hope.
Great. Wow. That's not too heavyweight to bear, but, I'm strong. I've carried bigger torches, I'm gonna go for it. The, and it's we get to that point where you said to me on the phone that you were surprised by the animosity, the acrimony is what you said also, and that you thought that everyone would be like, "Oh my gosh, he's right. This is a great, oh, of course. What were we thinking? We should follow what he says."
Can I set
But
that up for our audience, Eric? Can I set that up a little
and
bit,
this
a
is
little context?
exactly why you and I were meant to be together, because we're each other's wingman. Like, that is, when I hear it, just like you said, I'm thinking like, duh, of course that's what we're gonna do. That's business. That's the way it should be. But you also have some amazing insights. And when you do meet acrimony, and that's why I said, and introduce you as a polarizing figure, you are. And that's fine. And you should be, because if you're making waves and you're making things happen, that means that the industry is going to change going forward. Um, so, some of the parts, why do some people look at you as such a contrarian thought leader? What have you come up against?
Well, thank you. And what I mean for your viewing audience by setting up is what led me to through that naivete and then that confrontation with acrimony and with adversarialness and pushback. And here's what it was. 18 years ago, I took a step back and and I don't get any points for this. I just began to understand that what we were doing was not working, and the books that I was reading were actually no longer relevant in the late 90s and in the early 2000s. So, as a matter of goodwill and good faith, um, I was able to attract multiple major donors who underwrote a statistical study. And let me share with you what the parameters were.
Here we
In
go.
order to participate in this clinical study, and we had to have 487 participants in order for it to be valid, we could only interview CEOs of nonprofit organizations that had received a restricted gift that was dedicated and restricted to financial capacity building within the
Yep.
last 5 years. So I'll sum it up. We had 487 individual nonprofit CEOs who participated. The requirement was they could be in the study if they had received a gift dedicated and restricted to only be spent on capacity building, fundraising, special events, major gifts, direct mail, phone. That they had to receive that gift within the last 5 years, and it had to be spent on raising more money. Okay, so that was the interview set. Here are our findings. Took 2 years.
Drum roll. Can we get a drum
Yeah.
roll, please?
85% of nonprofit CEOs who had received a restricted gift for capacity building in no way, shape, or form in a period of 5 years built any new capacity. That was revelation number one.
Boom.
Revelation number two, 15% did. Oh,
Oh,
85% did it, didn't, but 15% did, which gave us a sample to evaluate. And here's what we discovered. They raised more money than they had ever raised prior during the greatest downturn in the economy since the Great Depression. This was during the housing crisis. Second, they raised their money whether they had a bad board, a even board, a nothing board, or a good board. Their board of directors had nothing to do with their ability to raise more money than they ever had. Third, in each case of the 15% at each organization, there was one member of the C-suite who took the same free market enterprise principles we know work in the for-profit sector and applied them at their nonprofit. Now, Eric,
No
that was
way.
that was the information that I was entrusted with, that the donors paid for. That 1,000 pages, new guidelines for nonprofits. There was 6 new guidelines, but 1,100 pages. And we put that together and we took it to the Association of Fundraising Professionals. We took it to the Certified Fundraising Executive Organization. We took it to the United Way worldwide. We took it to all the state associations. Mano, FANO, Florida Association of Nonprofit, Pennsylvania Association of we took the Maryland
Thanos,
Association. We took it to all the ANOs, if you will, and
right?
it was
Yeah.
summarily rejected. Furthermore, it was positioned as immoral, idolatrous, that which would ruin the nonprofit sector.
Blasphemy.
That was the response. And my feelings
Why?
were hurt. My feelings
Yeah,
were hurt.
they hurt your feelings,
Well, my feelings
but
were
you
hurt when
had
you asked me why. I'll tell you why. Thank you for asking. Because in the 1,100-page guidelines, we were able to empirically eliminate and reveal the different products that for-profit companies were selling to nonprofits. Like a nonprofit consulting firm would sell board training. I'll get to that later. A nonprofit consulting firm would sell them a feasibility study. We demonstrated empirically that all these products were scams.
the
So,
feasibility study is your favorite, right?
yeah, well, yeah. Don't get me in trouble. So the reason we ended up getting all the pushback is we didn't realize that the new guidelines for nonprofits was messing with people's money. And by the way, it took me a year and a half to realize that. So that's my story about pushback.
Yes. I think it was my third week when I saw that. And around the same time when I spoke to Dean, and
Dean
later told you that story,
Wong.
Dean, and you were like, wait a second, did you know that I knew Dean? I said, I don't know who you know. I don't know anything about that. And it turns out, you guys are as thick as thieves and two peas in a pod. And it was a wonderful podcast with him, just an amazing thinker. What's important to understand is where somebody's, before somebody loses something, they get really passionate about it before they lose it. And what you're encountering is confirmation bias, right?
Oh,
It's because I've defended this position. I've defended this position. I've defended this position in obvious data that it's not true. Now you have to have this cognitive dissonance, right? Then you're like, oh my gosh, if I've really defended this, but then I wouldn't be doing this if that was, there's all this turmoil at that point. And that's confirmation bias. And it's look at Robert Cialdini, persuasion tactics, all this other stuff. When you get somebody to agree and they're in that spot, and politicians use it all the time, people do this all the time, marketers use it all the time, to get someone to take a stance on something, they're easy to continue just making them decide that way. Versus you could bring them stable data and it's not going to, shake it. You got to shake their foundation first and then start applying some of the stable data to get them just like, oh, okay. And I think the world's a lot like that anyway.
so Eric, you
Unfortunately,
use
now,
some different words. What you're saying is when you confront cognitive dissonance, there's no value in going to them with the data. Take it from there. Explain to me what you said, because just go ahead. You have to confront their foundation. Put some more words on that.
right. So you would have to you'd have to shake it so it's not as stable. And there has to be some cracks in it. And to the point where a good person who can communicate would also allow that person to be wrong and be okay with that and not judge them. But also on this other side, the one side has to understand from their point of view why they think it's so correct also. Because you're like, okay, I I agree. Like it does look that way from where you're standing because you're standing here. And here are 15% of these 487 people that crushed it and 85 didn't. So let's just unjudging look at these two things and let's make the best decision for the organization. Let's move forward. And you get to that point, you're like, okay, I can be wrong and learn from it and then move forward is the real adult thing to do here. And if we're the stewards of goodwill that we're telling everybody we are, and we truly are, then that's the smartest way to walk out of this. And then to say, okay, now there's something in your books where you talk about kind of like not making a big change, but servicing an issue.
Well, if I can, thank you for recognizing that. If we want to get a best gift, invite a donor to give a stretch gift instead of going to them with, here's how we're going to service the problem. Come to them with a dollar amount that solves a problem completely. Money chases after a solution that solves a problem completely.
Yeah. And Dean just, I mean, hit me right between the eyes with that one when he was explaining his vision for Maui, for Hawaii, just like to completely make sure every single child had what they needed to thrive. And I was just like, you know, and then he and I discussed about the recovery network in Central Virginia and all this other stuff. And he's like, okay, so what's the big idea? What's the big vision for that?
Eric,
And
if I may, for your viewing
yeah,
audience, because Dean Wong on the island of Maui understands his service footprint, and because he has spent the money on evaluating what the needs are of every single family on the island of Maui, he spent the money to do that research. He defines success as this: I will bring every family the opportunity to make a yes/no decision about AMUA Family Services. Every single family will get the opportunity to say yes or no. And for those that say yes, I know how much it costs to serve everybody who says yes. So when he says every single family, it's not exaggeration. It's the truth, because he's done the
yeah,
work to understand what the need is, how much it costs. Let everybody say yes or no. Those who say yes, he serves them.
yeah. And that's an excellent way to analytically look at it, reverse engineer the entire process. And then to say, okay, this many people said yes. Hey, board, hey, donors, here's what, now this is the campaign for that, right? And to buy the land. So now he has some legitimacy and it's longevity with his company. But I know that you have worked with him considerably to get
Well,
there,
if I may
right?
say, Dean was an adopter of Major Gift's Ramp Up and applied it at Amui Family Services on behalf of the citizens of Maui.
That's awesome. And he speaks it, lives it, and talking to you about my conversation with Dean afterward made total sense once you and I finally connected. And I was like, okay, that now this like fills in all the gaps. Um, I'm gonna move forward a couple more things because you also have a different idea about boards, and that you've been clear that strong CEOs, not boards, drive nonprofit success. And why does the sector resist that idea?
Well, the
And
IRS.
am I asking the right question?
Well, no. Here's what you did. The question that is a little tough for me was, why does the sector resist this idea? Now, I can tell you all
Yeah.
about how a board should work in the strong CEO, but let me first address why the sector resists this idea. Because 100 years ago, the IRS decided that if the government is not going to charge you taxes, no individual can own the organization. Just that easy. You're going to do the work of civil society. You'll probably do it better than government. You are not going to have to pay taxes for doing that, but you cannot own the organization. It has to be overseen and owned by the community. The community has to own it, and the community will delegate their responsibility to individuals that we call board members. So, our model is that the community owns the nonprofit. The community is represented by unpaid volunteers that may know little or nothing about nonprofit management, who do not have the time to properly hold accountable and actually oversee the organization, who, by the way, are told that they're supposed to fundraise. They don't like to fundraise, and they are going to be persecuted for the next 2 years of their term for not fundraising. That's our model. And it is insane. And the nonprofit sector resists it because it doesn't understand the free market enterprise principles that we know that work. Now, for instance, Steve Jobs had a board, 5 people, not just
5. 5 people.
5. Each
Yeah, I think
one
you
of
mentioned somewhere between, what, 4 and 7, I think, yeah.
he had a 5-person board. And by the way, each person had an individual expertise. And by the way, they didn't have to know how to actually build a motherboard in order to serve on the board. They had 5 experts. He had a legal expert. He had a financial expert. He had a corporate company expert. He had a personnel expert. And he had a marketing expert. These were the 5 individuals that provided him the advice function of the board. Advice.
Thank you
Okay.
for clearing that up.
And that occurred in between board meetings. He could rely on them for advice. During the very few board meetings that they had, they did not rely on Steve Jobs to report to them his performance. That's the nonprofit model. We're now going down the agenda, hear from the executive director. And what are we expecting the executive director to do? Tell the truth about what's going on? Deposition themselves, lose their job? No. In Steve Jobs' case, and in every NANU nonprofit case, the 5 advisors, the board members that are legally responsible, they rely on 2 third parties for a report on the CEO. The first third party does an audit of the finances, independent of the board treasurer and independent of the CEO. That occurs annually. Every 2 years, they rely on a second expert. They do a program impact evaluation. And the nonprofit board relies on a third party to evaluate the outcomes that the board of directors agreed that the CEO said he or she wanted to do. The board gave the CEO all the rope that he or she wants. We're going to accomplish this in 2 years. And at the end of the 2-year mark, they rely on a third party program evaluator to report to the board if the CEO, the executive director, accomplished said goals. Advice in between meetings, accountability by third parties so the board can make informed decisions at meetings.
Gosh, I can't imagine why people resist that idea.
Ah!
You know why? Because you said, let's rewind this really fast, because all the people that received donations or whatever for financial growth, 85% didn't do it, right? So if you have those second party, third party people who are truthfully looking into it without any kind of hanky panky behind the scenes, like, they're going to be like totally caught that they're not doing that, that they're not completing what they said they wanted to complete. They're not meeting the goals. They're not performing programs, stuff like that, right? So that is a piece of it. And I think that that's the true accountability is a very, very important thing for all businesses. And I find through Amazon really is what I designed in my own head is that good employees, salaried or whatever, love accountability. They love it. Because I love saying, yes, I did that. Yeah, I completed that. Yep, I got it. I'm on it. And my team loves that, right? And then you have a great team. They're accountable because then everybody's doing their part. The handoffs are proper and they're corrected and things are moving down the line. Not good employees hate accountability, right? Because it just points out where they fell short. They didn't follow through. They didn't do what they said they were going to do. And they make a bunch of excuses, which as a human being just causes your, self-image to drop and drop and drop. So that's where you're like, I love accountability because you're going to find out who's with you and who's not pretty quickly. And it's a loving accountability. It comes from a deep place of wanting to, like, we have an obligation at Journey House to help these recovering addicts because all of us who work there, we went through the hell. We went through the changes and the pain and the grit and the dark work to get to the great lives. And in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there's this page, the promises. And all the promises have come true in everybody's life who I'm working with. So when the new people come in and they're struggling on day 1 or 2, man, it just hits so hard because you're like, I remember that. That was awful, but I made it. Those people, and even if they're level 1 or level 2 in terms of hierarchy, their heart is so big to help these folks on the phone, sitting down with them, putting them around us. We have people who have graduated and recovered, have great lives, come back once a week and mentor people. That is where being a steward of goodwill in a nonprofit organization, for me, I love that. I stand up tall, I walk around the place, and like, we are doing amazing work. It's a little disorganized and there's chaos and we're growing and things are changing, but underneath it all, miracles are happening. And I want to make sure people open their eyes to that. And most likely in every nonprofit, that's happening. And I think that leads into the storytelling piece that I find is fascinating with nonprofits is we have to learn how to tell the stories in a certain way so that people will get it and understand that, like you said that a nonprofit organization is taking care of a community issue probably better than a government would, right? Every nonprofit organizer, leader who started it, they all have a catalyst moment that happened to them that shook their core, and they're just like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to change this. Now, in our lives, and this came from the book Mindset of Greatness by Lewis Howes. There's a guide, there's a victim, there's a villain, there's a hero in our lives every day, right?
Say it again.
And the
Do the
hero,
list again, Eric.
there's a hero, there's a villain, there's a victim, and a guide. And the hero and the villain can start from the same place. The difference is the villain will say, oh, I'm going to make sure everyone hurts and feels the same pain I did. The hero says, I'm going to make sure no one has to go through what I went through. And that's the difference. You have amazing nonprofit leaders who are heroes. And the idea, like, money allows us to breathe and expand. When I read that, I was like, this dude gets me. Like, that's my thinking. Because when I was in there for the first 2 or 3 weeks and they were talking about, well, we got to do just this to make it, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. If we're just going to take care of 50 people a week or 100 people a week, and I've driven by 100 on the way here, what the hell are we doing? No. Yeah, we have 10 houses. Can we get 10 more? Can I get 20 houses? Can I get 30 houses? Can I get bigger houses? And that's where then I dug into your major gifts ramp up and the idea of reimagining philanthropy and really understanding that, which resonated when you and I discussed, and I was like, there's no reason for a nonprofit to act like a nonprofit when it can be. All good organizations are run the same way. Sports, military, retail, for-profit, their operations are run soundly, efficiently. There's training, there's accountability, all the stuff that you already know.
Oh, the fundamentals of any small, medium, or large business is what you're saying.
They're all there, right? And I think that where, you've been in this game decades longer than I have, and you're right. I don't come in with any preconceived other notions and stuff like that, but you still face it on stage, and when you host workshops and critique current charitable legislation, and you are on the front lines and you're doing that. And I think, you need some help like me. like, you need me with you doing that stuff. Like, let's go for it. I'm
Can't
not
do
scared.
it
I've been on
without you.
stage.
Now, Eric, I know we're recording right now, and I think I'm going to share something that may feel a little bit dated, but I think it'll hold up. It turns out that tomorrow, Thursday, Wednesday, and Thursday, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, I am hosting a live online 2-day Major Gifts Ramp Up event. And I want you to be my personal guest. All you have to do is go to majorgiftsrampup.com, and I'm going to text you a scholarship code. It's only for you, and it's not for the general public. Can't do it here. But and just say yes right now. I know it's short notice. I know you can't come, but I look forward to you telling my audience about the hero, the villain, the victim, and the guide. I look forward to hearing about, the great employees love accountability because it's human nature. It's a win. They get to say, I did that. Oh, yeah, here's my numbers on that. The bad, the less than stellar employees resent accountability because it affects them because they're not performing. I need you to tell my audience. So 2 days, majorgiftsrampup.com, and you're going to be my personal guest. And don't say no right now in front of your guest that we're taping. We'll talk about it afterward.
Of course I'm gonna do it. So, let's see, Thursday, I have a 6 o'clock and a 7 o'clock podcast, and I'm not canceling,
Sure.
obviously, 'cause we're gonna keep doing this because obviously you have to do that. And wherever I have space, I will jump in and out, whatever I need, you call, and then we're gonna
Yeah,
do
you
this.
will you'll make an appearance. I know that you'll spend as much time as you can with me.
Of course. Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm happy to do that. I mean, I was already thinking, like, you only live in South Carolina. I live in Richmond, Virginia. It's not that
Well,
far,
that's
right?
great. Now keep going. We still got time for your viewing audience.
We can do that stuff. Oh, I'm fine. Because I have so many other crazy questions. Now I'm gonna get down to the, gosh. Well, let me see. All right, when you look at grants, because I asked you for a couple of things,
Oh
right?
yeah, you
I wanted to
did.
talk about grants. I want to talk about board stuff, and then if we touch AI, then we'll touch AI. We'll do that later. But when you look at grants, board structure, and AI together, what's the most important shift a CEO must make to scale their nonprofit in the next decade?
Thank you for asking. And here's what's fun. Wait for it. I am about to give you and your viewers platinum. Here we go. I have never filled out a grant request until I already had the gift. Friends, you can hire a grant writer. And by the way, all grant writers viewing this are naturally accepted. I'm not talking about you. But a nonprofit can hire a grant writer, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to say, I am going to send out 100 different grant applications to organizations that already give to ones just like you. And you want to know what you're going to receive in return? 100 letters of rejection from all those granting foundations. Friends, here's what's wonderful. If you'll join me at a 2-day Major Guest Ramp Up event, I'm going to give you the names not of the CEOs that serve on those foundations that you want a grant from. I am going to give you the name of all the trustees, the volunteer trustees, and I'm going to have them personally bring your nonprofit, your project, to the 2 times they get together. They come together twice a year, for distribution. But I'm going to have one of the trustees mentor you through the way they personally want you to fill out the grant application. You're not going to put it in the mail. You're not going to submit to the CEO. They're going to hand deliver it and tell their peers and the CEO to fund it. Good night, everybody.
Just drop the mic right there. Just drop it. Bam. That's fantastic. It's, and now I can tell you this because you brought up that whole thing. You're like, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you this. So with what I know with Amazon's AI and how to work with Salesforce and all these things, what I've done also is all of the gift matching companies. I have all of their contact information. I have all their numbers. I know who they are. I know who to call. I have their numbers. I have their freaking emails. Combine it with exactly understanding. Now you're going to be looking for, and then you're going to love this part. Those donors, those folks, their affinity, where they like to actually donate money, and what is their true capacity, which is wild. That information is in databases online, and that you would know that they have a propensity, they donate, is what's the affinity? Well, some people like higher education, some people like recovery centers, some people like kids, one people like food pantries, right? The affinity for it. So if you could do a gift matching company, the list of employees, build a cold email outreach to the folks who have the affinity for your nonprofit, and then you get in touch with them automatically, regularly start building a relationship. How cool is that?
I can tell you what, I think, and I
It's
and I
nuts. It's crazy.
it's wide
I
open,
filled
and I think that for you and your viewing audience, I want to match what you just said. I'd like to do this for Journey House, and I'd like to do it for Richmond, and would you allow me to share my screen for a second? I think you're gonna
yes,
love this. Here we go,
of
I've
course.
never done this before. I'm going to go, I guess, to a Chrome tab. Okay. Can can you see my screen right? What are you seeing?
I see a black screen says, please keep this tab open until the upload is done.
Okay. I see that screen too. Okay, I
Fine, you
got it.
gotta find
I
what
got it.
monitor you're on.
I'm in great shape. I'm le
That's me. Did you just X yourself off? Hilarious. Hey, can you hear me?
It's time to share my screen and support what you just said. I logged out of a meeting by mistake.
I know. I'm trying to get back to you on that. My phone. That's a wonderful cliffhanger, dude. That was the most epic cliffhanger ever. I love cliffhangers. Oh my
What you should
goodness.
do is you should just go in and say, you should just record after it and say, friends, come back for our next episode 10 days from now, where Jimmy, you should just, and then we do another 40 minutes. I'm joking. What do you want?
I just see if that link still works for you, and we'll figure it out. If we can jump back on real quick.
I did copy and paste the original link that you sent me
Yeah, I just
that I
sent you another
used
one.
an hour ago, and it says the site can't be reached.
That's funny. So I just sent you a new Gmail. See if that works.
Great. Accepted the event for tomorrow. The link's in there. It starts at 10. Here we go. I'm back. I'm hanging up. Okay.
Dude, that was the best cliffhanger. That was funny. Indonesia can wait, right?
That is great.
All right.
Here,
So
before you start recording, let's see if I can share my screen and get right where I wanted to be. Okay.
I haven't stopped. I'm not gonna mess with it.
Okay, good.
This is gold.
Okay, that's good. I think I got it this time. Oh, I do.
Because I'm gonna keep this cliffhanger. I might not even add it. They're gonna have to like
That's
put it
great.
behind a paywall.
I think you can see what I'm doing now. Is that right? I'm at Nano.
We're two peas in a pod. We you and I know enough marketing that many people are. Yeah, this is
Okay, here,
good.
friends.
Okay,
In light of what you just said
quickly.
about everything that you know that you can accomplish by picking up the phone and the resources you have, watch this. We're going to do this for Journey House. We're going to do this for the program participants at Journey House. We're going to do it for Richmond. I've gone to nano.org. I am then going into Nano Central. I'm going to come down to the donor scope directory and I'm going to log in. Only takes a minute, but it's bringing up the household data for every major donor in Richmond. So let's do this. We're going into DonorScope and we're going to download all the millionaires in Richmond. What count? Let's just do it by county for now instead of radius. Is that Richmond County for Richmond?
You can just put it in Richmond, VA, right there.
But what's the
Third
county?
one
Is
down.
it Richmond County as well?
Henrico,
Of course it is.
HENRICO.
H E N
There you go.
H E.
HENR,
Oh, there it is. Okay.
top
Here,
one.
because I know that your service footprint includes the entire county, but beyond. But for the sake of this podcast, let's just first look and take a guess at how many net worth millionaires there are in Enrico County, Virginia. I'm going to ask you to guess. It's one guess. It's okay. Only one guess, Eric. Give me one guess. How many net worth
500.
millionaires?
500.
44,883. Now, watch me. Stay with me. I know that makes no sense, but watch. We're going to get rid of everybody's retirement savings. We're going to get rid of people who have 1 and 2 million, 2 and 3 million, 3 and 4 million. Now we're only talking about millionaires whose income producing assets are 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, 7 million, 8 million, 9 million, 10 million, up to 100 million. Now, let's look at that number. This is in Enrica County, Virginia. And I am pleased to say that we have the full contact information, the cell phone, the emails for 9,776 millionaire households who make their home in Enrica, Virginia, who already live and give in your community. And you want to know what? Their family has been touched and been afflicted by life controlling issues. There's not a
Right.
family there that hasn't found a loved one whose life is out of control because they've just made this one mistake. They never would have done it if they knew it would have happened, but they have been touched and afflicted by addiction. And there's 97, the percentage of millionaires who have problems in New Journey House is greater than the regular households. So thank you for letting me share that with you, pal. I hope you're personally encouraged by all the potential Journey House has.
You know I am. And I see this because I use similar software, but this I'm very excited about. I'm glad you showed me that because we are gonna lock arms and go after that for sure. I know you have like 4 minutes left.
Yeah, how do you want to sum it
The
up?
I think that there is a a new wave coming into nonprofit organizations with new leaders that actually want to make impact and make changes, not just service an issue. And I think that's huge. And I believe that when we wake up to that 15% who knows how to correctly run an organization, the operations of the accountability, the training, everything goes with it, and find the right donors to breathe life into an organization so it can expand and you can pay your people well and develop them and then get more materials or whatever you need to grow to handle the very large issue, something bigger than you're even thinking you're able to do now because you're struggling because you don't have enough funds. Jimmy has the answers to change your thinking on it and the tools, and also you have accreditation and certifications as well, right?
Thank you.
That's
Certified nonprofit executive, certified development executive, and certified nonprofit consultant. And don't forget, Eric, the acrimony that we experienced 15 years ago was because we dared to actually have a credentialing system based on these new concepts.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that way now people who will get through the teaching and training and get certified will you will know exactly that they're going to follow through on the correct steps to grow their organization and fulfill a bigger mission.
It's wonderful. And
Right.
Eric, I love that the call that's on your life. I love the journey that has brought you to this point. And I promise you, the gifts that you're going to share and attract on behalf of Journey House, their board of directors, and every single participant that you serve, it is eternal. It is merciful. You are a mercy doer. You will find a need and you meet it. You make a promise and you keep it. And I'm privileged to know you, pal.
Right on. And I will be with you on that 2-day event as much as I can
We'll see you
be.
tomorrow.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Eric.
Take care.